something for you to think about and to understand the college's commitment to educational experience. So the College of Lake County remains committed to providing opportunities for its students to engage in robust debate and dialogue about a wide range of issues, some of which may be controversial or provocative. As an institution of higher education, the college is keenly aware that freedom of thought and expression, upholding respect for differing ideas, is an integral aspect of the educational experience and society overall. The college recognizes that some members in its community confront inequality on a regular basis and may feel hurt, discouraged, or troubled by statements made during events. Please know that the college remains committed to its work in upholding diversity and equity. And in accordance with college policy, certain forms of expression and speech are not allowed. This includes physical harmful conduct, harassment, threats, intimidation, and incitement of others to imminent lawless conduct or assault. Such conduct and speech is not protected by the First Amendment and will not be tolerated by the college. That said, the college is committed to providing opportunities for all students to exercise their voice while maintaining an inclusive environment for all students. To this end, the college wishes to work in partnership with students to ensure their events continue to uphold freedom of expression with the boundaries of its values of inclusion and integrity to ensure a safe and welcoming environment for all students and employees. We encourage everyone to engage in these opportunities to learn, listen, and express their opinions. In the spirit of true education, we expect everyone to do so with professionalism, civility, and compassion. At the College of Lake County, all students are welcome regardless of language, social class, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, race, and place of birth. We encourage students to share their ideas with professors about how the college can best facilitate and navigate hard conversations around controversial topics in ways that promote shared learning and welcome everyone into the conversation. And we ask our professors and staff to encourage open discussion while fostering a welcoming, trusting, and safe educational environment. Please enjoy our events for today and for the rest of the semester, and thank you so much for participating in student life.
All right, yeah.
Okay, everybody. Sorry, we're going to start in a minute here. We're actually running a little bit late. My name is Rob Korn. I am the chapter chairman for Young Americans for Free. Hi, Dee.
Hi.
Love you. Love you.
Love you too.
I just wanted to say a couple things before the event starts. Over the past week, we've had a lot of scrutiny with this event. We've had a lot of administration tell us that our format wasn't proper, that our last moderator was somewhat biased. We didn't see that in the video. So if any students feel that this debate or the last debate had any kind of biased moments in it, we encourage everybody to please come and talk to us. You don't have to go to the school administration to make a complaint about these debates. You can actually come to our meetings. We actually meet every Tuesday and Wednesday from 3 to 4. We meet Tuesday in B105, and we meet Wednesday in C106. Both of them are at the same times from 3 to 4. And we just want to express that there are a lot of students on this campus that do hold different views than each other, and we need to respect those views. We need to make sure that we're not offended when we hear a different view than our own. So, and I think that the administration kind of made that very clear in their email, and I think Teresa made that very clear in what her announcement before this debate. So I want to thank everyone for coming, and please keep an open mind. And if you feel like you have any complaints about the debate, please come to me and talk to me first. My name is Rob Korn. You can stop by the table over here. I'll probably be sitting here, and I'll be handing out some stickers and some pins and stuff, and I can give you more information about the group, and we can talk. So please just be respectful to the speakers, and and make sure that you keep your comments to yourself if you are in the audience, because it does penalize the speakers on their time. So we want to make sure that we get through this event in a timely manner, And again, I thank everybody for coming, and I hope that we can have a great debate and a great discussion, and hopefully it'll move our ideas forward and not backwards. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn over the mic to Andreas Kromack, who's one of our members. He was actually one of the people that debated in our last Lincoln Douglas debate, and he wants to say a couple things. So he's going to take a couple minutes and give you guys some information, and then after that we'll proceed with the debate. So thank you so much.
All right, so my name is Andreas Kromack. Many of you guys know me. If you didn't already, you may know me from the last debate. I just wanted to say, I wanted to personally thank all of you guys for coming here. You know, it'd be a little awkward if there was nobody in the audience, so thank you for participating. And I also wanted to say, I was one of the people who said that we should have more debates on campus. I'm one of the key people who actually organized everything. I try to put everything under immense scrutiny to make sure that everybody has as fair a shot as possible. And the reason why I organized this debate is, many of you know, there was an event that we held in the spring called Ask a Conservative, and a lot of students wanted to debate. And Ask a Conservative isn't really meant for debate. It's meant for more of a conversation, and it allows a lot of audience participation. We're going to be doing that again, actually, this fall. But I thought it was unfair that students did not have a format to debate and to express their opinions. And I feel like debate is lost a lot in the public sphere. It is one of the key tools of education of the past. Aristotle, Plato, all these people learned immensely from debate. And I think it's something that's missing a lot from our current school system, just in the United States in general. So I wanted to thank everybody. I also wanted to thank Miriam Hernandez, who was my debate opponent in the last debate, for taking out his personal time. And I wanted to thank him again personally because recently what had happened was a lot of my words were taken out of context by certain people and were presented to the school administration that defended me. And I want to thank you again in the school administration for defending me. But my debate opponent also personally defended me on that. So I want to personally thank him for that. And if you guys, because this is held in a public area, if you guys hear something and you want to make sure that you got everything in context, everyth's being recorded on video, you can check it out. And you can make sure that you heard what you heard. I want everybody to be able to speak, and that's why I gave people this platform. I want people with a different opinion to have the platform to speak to us and for us to learn through these events and grow through these events. So I'd also like to make a short announcement. We are having a bake sale tomorrow from 1 to 3. So feel free to stop by. We may not agree on all politics or policies, but one thing we can't agree on is how much we love lemon squares and brownies. So if you guys want to stop by, you're more than welcome. I'm going to hand things over to my moderator, and we're going to get started. Thank you.
Hello. It's really loud. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian Larson. I'm going to be the moderator this evening. So without further ado, let's get into the rules and format of this debate. While in the previous debate, both speakers were given 3 weeks to prepare, the affirmative speaker arguing for universal health care, Mr. Monroe, has actually been given 4. The other speaker, Mr. Jacob Horwitz, arguing against this, has had 2 weeks due to him taking over for another speaker, and has graciously agreed to the terms, knowing that this disparity may or may not put him at a disadvantage. The debate will consist of 5 speeches and 2 cross-examination periods. The speeches and their times are as follows. Affirmative constructive. Mr. Monroe, arguing for universal health care, will speak first for 6 minutes. Then the person representing the negative constructive, Mr. Horwitz, will get a chance to cross-examine him for 3 minutes. The negative, Mr. Horwitz, will then begin his negative constructive, in which he has 7 minutes to speak. The affirmative will then have a chance to cross-examine the negative for 3 minutes. After that, the affirmative will have 4 minutes to give his rebuttal to what the negative has said. Once concluded, the negative will have 6 minutes to give his rebuttal to the affirmative. The affirmative will then have a rejoinder of 3 minutes at the end of the debate, after which it will end and he will be the last speaker. We try to keep our times. However, if people violate the rules of the debate, there are penalties for both sides. The affirmative or negative may not interrupt each other on individual speeches. If there is an interruption for each single interruption, either by the affirmative or the negative, The opposite side will be granted a 30-second extension to their speech as a penalty to the interrupter and to be respectful of the affirmative or negative speaker's time. As you have noticed, this is 15 seconds higher than the previous debate, and the reason for this is because our moderator was on a very tight schedule and needed to be in class. I will still ring the bell at the same times I would regularly, but if there are time extensions, I will ring it once and then tell the affirmative or negative. Affirmative or negative will get X amount of time additional because of X amount of additional interruptions, in which I will reset our timer and ring twice when that extension is complete. As many of you who participate in debates know, time is gold. We prefer interruptions don't happen, as this will give each side exactly the same amount of time to speak, 13 minutes each. Any disruption by anyone is highly discouraged and will be acknowledged as inconsiderate, as we are all on tight schedules. It is disrespectful to all sides who have taken time out of their busy schedules to be here. That being said, the audience may applaud if they wish to support the speakers, but keep in mind that it will cut into their time and that this may or may not be beneficial. For this reason, the audience is encouraged to please hold their applause until after the affirmative or negative time is up, as to give them a full chance to have the same amount of speaking time to keep things as fair as possible. It is my job to assure that the audience remains quiet while speakers are talking, which means that I perfectly see fit whether or not to quiet the audience. Whether it is an applause or disruption is at my discretion. Also, if the speaker chooses the action to silence the moderator or be obscenely disrespectful as I am trying to enforce the rules, there will be a direct penalty with a 1-minute extension to the opposite speaker. My job as moderator is to simply enforce the rules of the debate. If I am being silenced, that means that the speaker is violating those rules, and any violation of the rules laid out, there will be consequences. If I am interrupting a speaker, it is to clarify the rules, to enforce rules, or to help the speaker who is currently presenting their case. That being said, speakers are allowed to ask the moderator how much time they have before entering into their speech. We will concur with each other when time starts to avoid any miscommunication over the starting of their times, to be fair and to have no false starts or lost times. Speakers may also call out interruptions and ask the moderator for 30-second extensions to which, if there has been an interruption, I will say, you may have a 30-second extension. During cross-examination, affirmative or negative are encouraged to ask any question they deem fit. Whoever is doing the cross-examining and asking questions is leading the interaction. The cross-examiner must give the opposite side a chance to answer each question, but also have it within their right to say that they will move on to the next question at any time, provided they have given the other side a chance to answer. If the warning bell rings, even if the speaker being cross-examined has not been given a chance to answer, the cross-examiner may move on to the next question regardless because of the time, but this privilege is only given when the bell is rung. Cross-examiner can ask 2 questions in cross-examining before the speaker has answered, only if they are directly related. Cross-examiner may give background information to go in their question as they deem fit, however. If the cross-examiner decides to make more statements than questions, it is within my discretion to remind them that they must ask questions. If the affirmative or negative being questioned do not wish to answer a question, they have every right within their discretion to say that they will not answer, provided they have a reason that they believe it is not on topic or not it is a red herring. Provided they give a reason, they are permitted not to answer a question. If they say they wish not to answer a question but do not give a reason, cross-examiner may ask the reason. If they have none, they may comment none. I will say noted, make a tally on the sheet, and the cross-examiner must move on. Neither side is forced to answer any questions they don't want to. However, if no reason is given for every question or only 2 questions are answered in a 3-minute segment, the cross-examiner, whether negative or affirmative, will be granted an extra 2 minutes to their individual closing remarks to gain back time that was wasted in respect to the cross-examiner and our audience. The person being questioned must also answer at least 3 questions during this 3-minute segment to avoid this penalty. If 3 questions are answered, then there will be no penalty. It is important that the audience notes that whichever speaker they support, it is detrimental to interrupt either side. If you disrupt a speaker you do not agree with and the other speaker cannot hear what has been said, it will be nearly impossible for him to rebut any points made. If the speaker on the opposite side sees a flaw with what is being said logically, it is beneficial for him to hear that point being made. It's hard to rebut what you can't hear, and also because of the time, of my personal time, I like to ask that the audience be considerate. Speakers are encouraged to take notes during speeches and may add questions to their cross-examination. Each time before the affirmative or negative speaks, I will tell them the time they have to speak if they ask me. 1 minute before the speaker is done, I will ring this bell once. When time is expired, I will ring the bell twice. Speaker may finish his or her sentence, but if they continue too long, I will cut them off at my discretion. It should not take more than 5 seconds. Both speakers will now shake hands as the debate is started. When affirmative or negative are not speaking, they will sit down at this table. I will also be seated in this position. Once the time is expired, I will say affirmative or negative, your time is expired. Again, just to be clear, any question, affirmative or negative, asked in their time segments not designated for cross-examination should be rhetorical. Affirmative or negative should not have a back and forth except in cross-examination. If affirmative or negative asks someone a direct question on the other side while it is not cross-examination period, if the side answer, I will not consider it an interruption, but I will remind the speaker they are not in a cross-examination period. In conclusion, at the final bell, I will say time has expired. This concludes our second debate. Thank you for coming. At which the two speakers will shake hands, and this will conclude our event. Some of you do not, so many of you, this debate is about the proposal for universal health care. I hope all of you can learn something from our debaters and grow from this experience. This is a college that continually shows the value of diversity, and diversity of ideas is no different. You may hear of a view that you've never heard of, or even be pleasantly surprised to learn something that you didn't know. So we are all sincerely hope that everyone can benefit in their academic learning from this debate and grow in the dialogue and conversation. And I, for one, as well as my fellow students, are proud to be a part of that process. Now let's get things started. Debaters will now shake hands, initiating the start of the debate. Our first debater will be Mr. William Monroe on the affirmative side. He will be the pro-universal health care side. This will be the first affirmative case for universal health care. You have 6 minutes for affirmative. When time draws near, at 5, I will ring the bell. Mr. Monroe, please present your case.
Hello? All right, that's good. America's healthcare is broken. That the idea that the free market forces will regulate themselves is being teared down in front of our eyes. You see this affecting us, our families, our friends, and our co-workers. In a country where we claim to be the greatest in the world, in a country where we claim to be the bastion of freedom, democracy, and diversity, in a country the rest of the world looks to, whether for our perceived wealth or for our culture, in a country we spend most on the military combined to the next 8 countries, this is an embarrassment. Why is it that we constantly make excuses for not having universal coverage for all? Even with medical bills being one of the reasons why Americans file for bankruptcy, this issue has been persistent. Oh, it's socialism. Oh, it disrupts the free market. Oh, life is unfair anyway, nothing is ever free or given. These arguments don't solve the issues that we have at hand. The free market is broken. It's being manipulated by multi-billion-dollar corporations, with some being responsible for the price of insulin, for the rising price of EpiPens, not to mention having contributed to the opioid crisis we have today. There must be government involvement to stop these abuses. And with universal health care, people still have a choice in which insurance company they can have, whether it be public or private. The difference is that those who still have people who still have coverage, even if they can't afford to pay for the private option. We pay more per capita for healthcare than any other developed nation, yet we have a lower life expectancy, higher minimum mortality rate, and higher hospital admission rates. We pay higher for the same drugs that can be found in other countries such as Canada or New Zealand or India at a much lower cost. In 1948, the United Nations declared that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and I quote, "Everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and of his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care, and necessary social services. What we have here is a violation of this right. 45,000 Americans die each year from lack of health insurance. With universal health care, not only is it the morally right thing to do, it also makes sense statistically. In countries with it, the quality of healthcare is higher, and yet the GDP makes up less for that social's economy. If America's healthcare is so great, why are the people becoming broke over this? We're fine with spending money on wasteful wars that doesn't even benefit the average American whatsoever. We have spent $5.9 trillion since 2001 in the Middle East. We can afford to bail out banks that have deceived the working and middle class of the country, spending $700 billion in the process. We're fine with selling weapons to oppressive countries that don't have our best interests in mind. Yet, when initiatives to improve the livelihood of the countrymen are called into place, excuses are made that can't be affordable. This is why I propose a two-tier health system similar to what Germany has, where there are options for public and private health insurance. In Germany, out-of-pocket expenses and hospital spending per discharge are much lower under the current system that is placed over there. In our developed nations, citizens don't have to worry about paying for prescription prices. Our price of a vial of insulin in Canada is $30, while in the US it could be up to $320. Why is that? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. That is due to the government over there negotiating with the pharmaceutical companies to make it affordable. And so do governments in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and Korea, and any other developed first world nation. We are outdated in believing that the free market forces will fix itself, because we all know people like Martin Shkreli, who raised the price of a drug that treated people with HIV and AIDS by 56 times, from $13.50 a pill to $7.50 a pill, or companies like Mylan, where they raised the price of EpiPens to $700 for two pairs for a brand name pack, or Purdue Pharma, where they sold OxyContin, which is depressing, knowing that the drug is addictive from past lawsuits, and they also contribute to opioid prices they have, along with Johnson & Johnson, who recently settled like a $500 million lawsuit in Oklahoma for also contributing to the opioid crisis in Oklahoma as well. These companies, they are a symptom of a bigger problem with the healthcare industry itself. They aren't a few bad apples. They are a product of the healthcare system. This is where profits are placed at a higher priority than human life itself. Families and lives have been destroyed by this. But hey, that's the result of free market, right? Oh, one more? What is it? No, I think that's all I have. I give my time. Yeah.
Speaker has relinquished his time. All right, that concludes the affirmative construction portion of our debate. The cross-examiner will now have 3 minutes to cross-examine the affirmative constructive.
Can I go up there? These positions? Oh. And just let me know when you want to begin.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah, how's it going?
So my first question to you, Will,
Right.
is under your plan,
Yep. All right.
what would be your ideal tax rates for top income individuals, middle income individuals, and low income individuals?
I like to follow the Warren Buffett rule, which although it's been a while since I read upon it, I know those who are taxed at a high income rate, there's like some sort of progressive tax system. I oppose what is it? High tax of income, because I know majority of the multi-billionaires in the country, they don't make their wealth from income. It's from, I think, having stocks and shares and holders. I know the marginal tax rate for having that is about 16% if you have stocks and shares if they're worth thousands or millions of dollars. But when it comes to income, personal income tax, I'm against raising that. I feel like the marginal tax when it comes to owning stocks and such, as per the Warren Buffett rule, is the best way to go.
So you're saying you wouldn't raise income tax on high income individuals?
No, I'll follow the Buffett rule. with the stocks and such.
Okay. So that's the question I had. So
Okay.
I'm on to my speech. I have to? All right. 1 minute and a half. Okay. So under your plan,
Right.
Right. Anybody, so you're saying you want so public and private option.
Right.
So under your plan, anybody could use the public option rather.
Right, that's correct.
Okay, so anybody at all, any income individual.
Any level of income, like a social economic level, where it be upper class, upper middle class, lower middle class, working class, yeah, that'd be
Okay.
correct. You have the option of choosing private or public.
Okay, how much time do I have now? A minute? Okay. Wait, so I have to keep asking questions?
Yeah, or you can relinquish your time.
I'm gonna just relinquish it, because I want to move on to my speech.
All right.
Cross-examiner has relinquished his time. That concludes the cross-examination period.
All right, so I'm going to start out with a speech about a horror story when it comes to government intervention in healthcare. So I'm going to talk about the story of Charlie Gard. And Charlie Gard was a terminally ill 10-month-old child from the United Kingdom, where they have universal healthcare, who was essentially sentenced to death by the European Court on Human Rights. Even though Charlie's parents wanted to take him to the United States for potential life-saving treatment, they weren't allowed to. Instead, the court ruled that the Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children, where Charlie was being treated, would withdraw all life support from Charlie, which left him to die. And what was the court's justification for this judgment? They determined that Charlie should have to, quote, die with dignity. Charlie suffered from a rare mitochondrial disease that destroys muscles in the brain, and there was no treatment currently available at the time to help Charlie in the United Kingdom. So Charlie's parents both raised $1.6 million to fly their son Charlie to the United States for potential life-saving treatment. The United Kingdom hospital denied that the innovative treatment would help Charlie, but instead it would prolong his suffering. And also that they knew better than the parents, the same parents who suffered through Charlie's illness and cared for him every day. Thus, the hospital then argued that it would be in Charlie's best interest to die. The UK courts agreed. The Guards then appealed to the European Union, and the courts ruled against Charlie's parents, with the European Commission on Human Rights stating, quote, Charlie would suffer significant harm if his present suffering was prolonged without any realistic prospect of improvement, and the experimental therapy would be of no effective benefit. The hospital also released a statement regarding the court's decision, stating, quote, our thoughts are with Charlie and his family on receipt of the news that we now know will be very distressing for them. Today's decision by the European Court of Human Rights marks the end of what has been a very difficult process, and our priority is to provide all possible support to Charlie's parents as we prepare for the next steps. Despite the release of the hospital statement and the refusal to alter Charlie's treatment, Charlie's parents then announced that the hospital would stop Charlie's life support the following morning after the court's ruling. The Charlie's parents also quoted, we begged them to give us the weekend. Friends and family wanted to come and see Charlie for the last time, but now there's not even time for that. Doctors said that they would not rush to turn off his ventilator, but we are being rushed. Not only are we not able to take our son to another hospital for life-saving treatment, we aren't even allowed to choose where and when our son dies. There are three things wrong with this whole situation. For all the talk about America's healthcare system being so evil, at least we promote freedom of choice and give as many options to patients as they can afford. The doctor that offered Charlie's family experimental treatment and said in court, if Charlie was in any medical facility in the United States, they would have started treatment immediately. But in the United Kingdom, a socialized medicine country where individuals' needs fall victim to the preservation of the system, there's a less concern for patient rights. In the United States, we are so concerned with the freedom to obtain care that we insist on releasing a legally brain-dead patient to their parents as long as they promise to keep them on a ventilator. In the United Kingdom, they are insistent on withdrawing the opportunity for life-saving care because they think it is better to kill the child than keep it alive. Despite this court's ruling, the National Health Service makes these decisions all the time on how to ration healthcare. You know, Bernie Sanders always tweets about how no one should be denied care if they can't afford it. Well, that's what happens all the time under socialized medicine. It's not about you not being able to afford it. It's about the government not being able to afford it. Number two, a government-run system breeds control. In the United States, the case of Charlie Gard is a major scandal. In the European Union, it's treated as not a big deal. That's because we in the United States like to think that we control our lives. We like to think that our priorities matter, especially over random doctors who didn't raise us. But once you give up your life and death decision to an impersonal government, it is almost impossible to take back that control. Charlie's case could have been really easy. The hospital could have released Charlie back to his parents, but they didn't do it because they truly believed that they had the final say in Charlie's life. And why shouldn't they? They always have the final say under a universal system. 3, allowing the government to control the value of life actually means devaluing life. It has been a fundamental value of Western civilization that life should always be preserved despite suffering and despite pain, and that death is not a solution for suffering. But that notion has now been replaced with a secular standard of living. So in places like Europe, euthanasia is now available for people who don't even suffer from terminal illnesses. Things like anorexia or depression, because by the European Union standards, it is just better to die with dignity than to live with pain. That's the new logic. That's a radical switch from the original doctor's Hippocratic oath, which stated, "Neither will I administer poison at anyone if asked to do so, nor will I suggest such a course." Or even the strict medical school version used in the United States, which states, "Above all, I shall not play God." People who value life want to keep decisions about their lives in their own hands, rather than turning their lives over to an impersonal government bureaucracy that promises you coverage it chooses for you. Charlie's story isn't just a travesty of justice and an insult to decency. It's a warning for people who think that bureaucracies are as interested in preserving your health care as much as you are.
Speaker has relinquished his time. Cross-examination now begin for 3 minutes.
All right. Oh, switch locations? All right. For one, I am not trying to sugarcoat that this case is tragic. Obviously, it is. Like a family shouldn't have to be forced by the government to choose where his son can or can't get treatment. The question I'd like to ask is though, what makes you think that under our individual health system, which will be different from the UK, what makes you think that this will be inevitable as the case you brought up?
Because the government's making the decisions and not you. See, I'm saying it in the United States, if Charlie's parents had the option, if they had healthcare in the United States, if they lived in the United States rather,
Right.
they would have had the option to get the treatment that they needed for their son.
Right, yeah.
In any government-controlled healthcare system, you don't have that decision. See, that's the thing about the United States healthcare system, is that we have the choice about what treatment we can get. But here's the thing: under any government control, they choose for you.
Yeah,
is that what you want?
Well, under my policy, I still believe in personal choice. People can
But that's not how it works under a public healthcare system. They choose for you. The government chooses what treatments you receive.
Well, no, because single-payer universal healthcare system, it differs between countries. In the UK, they have the National Health Service (NHS), which is single-payer, along with Canada, which is also single-payer. But countries such as like Germany, it's actually pretty unique.
Well, I mean, in Germany, if you have public healthcare, they choose the decision there for you. I'll give you an example. I'm a patient that has Medicaid.
Right.
Okay, and I have to choose where to go based on where the U.S. government tells me to go.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, and we have basically a system similar to what you're talking about, where we have a lot of privatization, but we also have income provided by or rather, healthcare provided by the government. You know, they choose where I go. They choose, and my options are limited, and I get less quality of healthcare under my government healthcare that I have.
A minute. All right. Okay. To go off what you were saying, Jacob. What is it? I'm not calling for that at all. First of all, we can make changes. We're not going to copy and paste the policy of National Health Service in the UK and place it in the US. I'm willing to be flexible and make sure that this doesn't impede people's individuals' rights on what treatment they could get. Along with that, a second question I'd like to ask, if you have enough time, is the argument you made. It doesn't really answer the question how does this relate to people who can't pay for medical bills. Of course, what happened with Charlie's is tragic, but how does it relate to the medical bills?
I'm saying that when you have better choices
Right.
of what you have,
Right.
you can choose the cheapest option. Okay?
Right.
So under a free market system, we have different health insurance companies. You can choose which one you want. You can choose what works for you, what works for your family. Under a government system, you don't have that choice, do you?
Am I allowed to talk? Or?
Cross-examination period is over.
All right.
Mr. Porwitz, you may now present your negative construction. You have 7. Oh, wait. Affirmative rebuttal will now begin. 4 minutes.
All right. Well, first, I don't want to put Jacob personal character on the spot. I'm gonna put his argument on the spot. No offense to you, but the question I asked before was it. I mean, yeah, what happened to Charlie is obviously tragic. No, obviously everyone can agree with that. But was it? I was trying to explain with the German healthcare system. Was it in Germany? If you're in a public health system, you have there's over 118 insurance companies. If you're in a public health system, they could choose from. So obviously within those 118 companies, we could obviously make the assumption that there's different policies for within each. But also in Germany, you also have the option for a private health system, which about 10% of the population takes. So within that, I kind of want to draw heavy upon the German model and still have people who had an option to pay for private health care, or pay for private health care, and those who are able to afford what's called the public health care. Those who are able to afford public health care, you still have a choice within those public health care system that they have in Germany. Oh yeah, and for my for my rebuttal, as I said, this case, even though as I said before, it's tragic. It's only one case out of maybe out of thousands, millions of individuals that have also went through the NHS and they have reported satisfaction with it. We still have lower life expectancy in the U.S. when it comes to healthcare, even though we spend more per capita. I think per capita is about 14, 15, 12,000 per capita on healthcare. While in countries such as Canada and U.S., they spend like less. It's around less than 10K, although it differs. Yeah. And I like to go through my notes. What is this? Along with that, medical tourism is a thing with what's called the U.S. healthcare system. Even people who are able to get the best treatment, they still can't afford it. Such as you have cases where people in the U.S. they go to Mexico to get treatment, whether it's for like their braces or worth of surgery and stuff. My brother, for example, a 15-year-old brother, he's about to get. Me and my parents wanted to get a braces, but it would cost him $5 or $6 grand. So what we did is we flew over to Europe and we went to Ukraine, where they fixed his teeth up for $1,000, and he just gets readjustments through Chicago. So the argument that the plan will be cheap in the U.S. will be kind of false in itself, because if it is, then why are people going to Mexico or other countries via medical tourism to afford the procedures that they need? And also, but the price of healthcare wouldn't be, right now, you keep hearing numbers that it's going to cost like $30 trillion to $20 trillion, or over $10 trillion over 10 years. What's missing out in the fact is that these numbers take into account the current price of healthcare right now. It takes into account like the $100,000 MRI scan that we charge, or like the $100 drugs that we sold here, like for insulin, for diabetes, that could be sold. I'm like exaggerating, for like $3 or $10 like in another country. So yeah, I yield my time.
Affirmative's time is now over.
The negative may present his rebuttal to what the affirmative has said for 6 minutes.
All right, so I got a couple things to say. First, you talked about medical terrorism, right?
Right.
So, the United States International Trade Commission estimates that over 100,000 to 200,000 people travel to the U.S. just to use our healthcare system.
Right, yeah.
So,
Oh.
so you're saying that people go to Mexico for healthcare? I don't really think that's true because most people stay in the U.S. because we have a better healthcare quality of healthcare here in the United States. In fact, according to Gallup, over 80% of Americans like the quality of healthcare in America, and 69% like the coverage that they have right now.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay? So, and I want to bring up, you talked about life expectancy in the United States. The thing about life expectancy is that it doesn't measure the longevity of how long their citizens live. It more measures how many people die early. And we do have more people dying early because we have more people than other countries have. And you talked about per capita spending. That's another thing because we also have a lot more people per other countries. So yes, of course we're going to have more people paying more because we have more people than they do. And I think it's wrong to compare our system with Germany because Germany has far less people than we do. Creating a system for about 80 million people is far, far different than creating a system for 330 million people. And I also want to, bring up another point. You talked about cost. So you were somewhere right where it costs 28 to 32 trillion dollars per decade. That's 2.8 trillion to 3.2 trillion per year. So every single year, the federal budget that we have right now passed is 4.407 trillion dollars. So half, more than half actually, would go towards your plan to provide health care for everybody. So over the decade, that would double, more than double, the national debt we have right now. So this will put us in a terrible financial situation, And you talked about lowering healthcare costs. I want people to have more options, okay? You talked about insulin. When we have more companies producing the same insulin, that price will go down because you'll have companies competing with each other to make the same product. And that way, your price will go down. So under your healthcare system, just regulating the prices is not going to make it cheaper. The government has to pay for everything, which is just going to keep adding and adding to the cost that you make. So, so one thing that you might talk about was, I don't understand how this could be financially feasible without raising taxes on not even just high-income individuals, but middle-class individuals too. And right now, middle-class individuals are getting strangled by the tax system right now. And just dumping all this cost onto middle-class individuals who can't afford to pay for it is wrong. I would prefer people pay for the healthcare that they want and they need. People have choices in America. They have the choice to whether or not they want healthcare, or if they want to just pay out of pocket. Right now, according to the AP, we have 90% of Americans who have healthcare coverage, whether that's through private means or through government means. I want that number to be 100%, and I think the way we do that is by increasing choice that people have. By just giving a person one option, that's wrong. Because what if the healthcare plan you give to me just doesn't work for me? What if I don't like the doctor I have? What if I don't like the hospital that I'm assigned to? I don't have a choice, do I, under a government plan? Under private insurance or any other insurance plan, I have the choice to make whether or not I want to go to a certain kind of doctor or anybody at all. And that's the beauty about free market, is that you have the choice. The choice to have insurance or to do anything is in your hands. Under your system, the government would have that choice. So, also I want to talk a little bit about something that was kind of similar was Obamacare, to kind of what you're talking about. Because Obamacare was the first step into kind of trying to mix in private insurance with public insurance. And we'll see how that went out. So Obama promised that it would reduce annual premiums by $2,500. Instead, they went up by $4,865 per family. And it would cost, people were paying higher deductibles. It cost the government $294 billion per year. So, but your plan would cost even more. Because Obamacare was a select group, but it was the first step into what you're kind of talking about, which was kind of a between private and government insurance. But it didn't work at all. And that's why people were trying to strip of it, and that's why Democrats don't like talking about it anymore, because they know it was a failure. And that's the thing, like I said, Obamacare was the first kind of step into universal health care, and it failed dramatically. So I don't think that a mix of private and public insurance would be anything better than what Obamacare was.
Negative has relinquished his time. The affirmative will now have a 3-minute rejoinder to speak.
Hello? All right, it works. All right. To conclude, while I still have many different options of what the opinions or facts or what have you Jacob has, to put it shortly, I think we could afford universal health care. The United States still pays a lower what's called value on tax, which is about, I think about 17. What is it? It was about 17%. While for it's 8%. While for other what's called OECD countries, it's about 17%. Value on tax basically goes you pay on like buying things like a sales tax and such. And I feel like if we implement that as the Warren Buffett rule, and then I feel like we could have an affordable healthcare system. I mean affordable. I mean one that has that is able to cover individuals under that system, along with having people not go broke over this at all. We already are in $1 trillion of debt. I might be pessimistic, but I don't think it's possible for us to ever repay that debt. So if we're going to debt, instead of going to debt over war or defense industry, armaments, or supporting military industrial complex or American imperialism, or what have you, we should go into debt something that's actually beneficial for Americans, whether it be on either left side, right side, conservative, liberal, authoritarian, libertarian. It should be beneficial for all Americans of all ages, of all races, regardless of class. So, thank you, and I yield my time.
Affirmative has relinquished his time. This was the last speaking position. Therefore, that ends our debate.
Yeah.
Andreas will now make an announcement.
All right, that concludes our debate. I want to thank you, Mr. Monroe, for taking the time out of his busy schedule, and also Mr. Porwitz and Mr. Larson over here. And I want to encourage all of you guys to continually, get involved with the debates. We actually do have another debate about illegal immigration that my good friend in the front row, Mr. Brian Acosta, has invited me to. It will not be under the YAF name, but I will be representing YAF. And if you want to come up and say a few words, go ahead, Brian.
Hey guys, my name's Brian. The reason we're having a second immigration debate, it seemed like there was a lot of people were unsatisfied. There were some rumors the moderator was impartial. I didn't think so. Just to get that out of the way, we thought we could make a part 2 to this. It's healthy debate. It's something we should be talking about, something that matters for our nation. So therefore, we'll be having it, I believe, October 16th. This isn't set in stone. But we're planning for around October 16th at around 11 through 11:30 a.m. That's the starting point, so we hope all of you can come and hear us out. So that's about it.
Can we give a round of applause for our two speakers, please? Thank you. All right, this concludes our second debate. Thank you all for coming, and I appreciate all of you guys being here. You have a good day.